So from the link, I hope you guys are downloading the files there because there are custom visuals as well as the data set, which will come very handy to us when we'll work today. So please, we will start at 3.5. For those of you guys who are already in the session, please download it so we can proceed. So I hope everybody has downloaded the data set. So let's move on. So today, before we begin, what we'll be discussing is Power BI visuals, the visuals that are there, and we will import a few visuals and learn tricks to do them. Beside that, slicers and filters, what are they and how are they used? We'll be discussing the same also. And histograms, what is it and how we can create such things in Power BI and hierarchies, things like that. And at the end of the session, we will be discussing a little of tax. And at the very end, we will hopefully in the second half of session, I'd say rather than end, we'll discuss about time intelligence function. That's something that is very crucial to Power BI, and that's why a lot of people like Power BI because they don't have to do the time intelligence calculation. Power BI does that thing for you in a very simple way. So that's what we are trying to do. I hope that makes sense. So let's begin with that. So first we'll need a data set. So let's go to Excel. In data sources, there is something called US Superstore. It's the same we used last time, one of the data set, but this time we'll use this as our entire data set. So if we click on transform data, it will take us to our M queries, which is a Power Editor window. But we are not going to do that. Okay, or maybe just a sneak peek I can give you. So M query and Power Query Editor is very important stuff. For those of you who don't know about it, you should check out the first video that we published last week, the tutorial that will give you a very importance of what mQuery is and what data folding it and how it is important in our day-to-day dashboards. So for those who are having doubts, do check that. That will make a lot of sense. So right now we open it just to see the data types. We can see here, this gives you data type. So it's 1, 2, 3, it's numeric, it's ABC, text. If it's date, then it's date and time. Nothing fancy here. We can simply click on other to rectify it if there is a mistake. So everything looks good. Let's go to the very end just to verify that all the data types are good. We can convert it into Power BI also. These data types change, but doing it in mQuery gives you the very initial advantage. It's just like we see that do everything at the very beginning. So that's what we are doing here. So everything looks good. So simply close. We don't do any editing here. It is kind of making an extract. Since it's an Excel data source, so there's no option like live and extract kind of thing. It will always be an extract connection. We'll save the workbook with a name. Let's try it. Session 2 with there are two extensions, PBIX and PBIT, as you can see. PBIT means we don't be saving any data in that file. It will be just the metadata, not the extract data. That is a copy of data will be being stored here. But since we are storing a copy of data, then we are using PBIX file. So now the workbook that has been saved has all the data as well as the Power BI file. Both are integrated in one, and it will keep that data with it until we actually refresh the data source manually. So that's how extract, or what, as a Power BI says, is import data mode works. With what we can see, live connections like cloud, SQL Server, or any RDMS for a matter of fact. You can have more of a live connection kind of thing or a cubes, but that's not option available with Excels and CSV files, any flat file. For them, it is always import mode. That being said, this is the main window where we will be doing the actual work. The second window is the data window. Here you can see your data in a tabular form. The last is the relationship model. If we have multiple tables, and as a matter of fact, we will be creating more tables as we proceed further. Not many tables, but a single table. Right now for implementing data intelligence, as I will, then we will make more sense of what this is and how it is used kind of stuffs. So that being said, now this is a particular small model that we are working on. So we will have only two tables and a modeling between them. But in practical scenario, that is enterprise project, you can have like 20 or 21 tables also. You have to create a model between them so it works properly. So that being said, let's move on further. Somebody is getting error while importing the data. Can anyone confirm that you are able to import the data? Because one of the colleagues informed that he is finding an issue. You might have to re-download it and try again. Okay, so other are able to download. Thanks for confirming. Raj, you might have to download the data again and check for it. It's something related to your particular environment, not a general issue. So you have to work on that. I can't help with that. Just to close your Power BI, open it and try to import it again. Hopefully it will work. 16-bit like 16-bit like error, then it's not related to more to say with your Power data source. It has more to do with your operating system and Power BI installed. It is causing some issue with you. You have to get more of install a fresh version of Power BI or check your Windows. Something is wrong with your OS or Power BI installed. So you have to work on that. That being said, so I hope most of you have downloaded the data. So before we move, I will explain two things. First is the data types that we are talking about. Similar to the data conversion, we can do it in a Power Editor. After that, if you miss something, then there is data type option available here also, as you can see. So if you fail to do it there, you can always change the data type here. That being said, for any data type, we can change it from here and always format it. Now format, a better way to explain what format means is like you have something called percentage. So showing as a decimal number doesn't make sense. there is nothing called data type as percentage. So we'll take the number we want to show the decimal values. So we'll show it as decimal and select percentage from here. So it will show by default as percentage. As we'll proceed, it will make more sense. So before we go further, that being said, let's create a measure and a calculated field, a calculated column and a calculated measure, and see what's the difference between them. I want to point out that all the calculation we do here are called DAX queries. The query that we do in query editor, those are M queries, and as we do everything here are called DAX queries. So both are different thing altogether. Okay. They are different language and written in a different way, but preferably anything that can be done in M query should be done there rather than waiting to do it as DAX queries, because data folding doesn't work at DAX. It works at M query and that reduces the pressure at your server and lets it to be done at your data source. For those of you who are not able to understand that, please go through the first lecture after this and it will make sense there, like what M query and data folding is. So now, going further, let's create a column. As you can see, I have right clicked and selected column. I'll give it name as revenue. Revenue is always combination of profit plus sales. So let's do it. As you can see, it always gives the fully qualified name. That is the table name first and then the column name. If you have been familiar with SQL, worked in with SQL in any language, that's how it works in SQL also with joins. To remove the ambiguity, maybe there are two tables with the name sales. So to remove ambiguity, we use a fully qualified name. So that's how it's work in Power BI also, because I can have more than one table and with the name sales and it will get confused. So that's how we do. So this revenue is a column. Let's drag it here. And it is showing by bar chart. It depends on Power BI. For different values, it shows a different chart. So let's make it a card. So it will give you exact value. So the revenue is 2.58 million, right? Now I will create this field again, but as a measure. So right click anywhere actually, as a matter of fact. And instead of new column, this time we will select new measure. Again. So it is not showing me table any name, column name. That's because with measure you have to first put the aggregate function. Let's put it as sum of revenue. And we'll put it as revenue measure. And let's drag it here again and convert it to card. So both are showing me as same value. What's the difference? The difference becomes more evident when we'll go to data source. At the data level, if we go at the very end, you can see a revenue column, but not a revenue measure column, right? So what is happening is when you calculate a column, that column is calculated as row level operation. That is, for each row in your table, it will calculate a different value. In the joining sales and profit, it will be aggregating it for each column, for each row level operation. So that's how it operates. So when your data is stored in a PBIX file and it's put on server, these columns are pre-calculated while making the extract of your data, and those are ready to use. So it will put the pressure on your, what you can say, memory, because it is stored at from the very beginning. But once calculated, it doesn't have to be calculated ad hoc. It is calculated when the data is getting extracted and done. All that it is doing after that is taking space in your memory, but it's not using your CPU and RAM, because the calculations are being done. These are very handy when you have to use these calculations further in other columns. So for that, we will go with revenues, calculated columns. But what measure does is, instead of calculating it as at the very beginning when the extracts are prepared, right? What it does, it calculates it ad hoc when we pull it into a view. It is doesn't calculate it basis of what we can say row level. It calculates it as a total of a measure, that is the whole of the table, the values that are there, and it calculates ad hoc. That means every time a visual is open. So if you have published a visual that uses the measure, but on the time that the user opens that particular dashboard and that particular page, at very that time the calculation takes in comes into picture. So it will take a lot of it will pressurize your CPU and RAM on which the on which your Power BI dashboards are running. Maybe it's on a cloud, then it will put the pressure on cloud calculator. But at the end of the day, it is using your processing speed to calculate it on an ad hoc basis. So it saves a lot of space because it is not saved initially in your data when your extract is prepared, but it has to be calculated ad hoc basis. So it is taking your CPU time. So you have to consider, if you need a row level operation, then a calculated column should be your approach. Whereas you need what we can say a measure that doesn't need a row level operation, it has to show as a whole value, like maybe a card value showing total revenue for a year, right? For that, we will use a measure rather than a calculated column and aggregating it. Another thing with measure, as we have seen, if we click on it again, pardon me, they have a different sign, and with measures, you have to put an aggregate function at the very beginning. It can't be order revenue just because it is aggregating the value. It is not using at row level. So I hope everybody is clear with what a calculated measure is and what a calculated column is. And for those of you who haven't got a hint, this is what DAX is, and we are now working on DAX queries. So that's the building block. I hope it's clear with every one of you, and we'll move further now. So now sums of order revenue I did, but what if I want to do something like remove the whole revenue field and do the initial calculation? Sorry, do the initial calculation, that is sum of sales plus profit, and sum them together. Sales plus profit. Would that work? Let's try. See the AutoSense is not giving me any option. And either way, I will try to put it manually and see what it does. It is giving me error that parameter is not correct. The reason for this error is within a sum, average, min, max, any function that we use in Power BI, we can't put a sub calculation within them. That is, we can't do any sub calculation. It should be a single value. So to fight this shortcoming, the solution, what is the solution? One is obviously how we have done it, that calculate revenue as a column and then aggregate it. but that doesn't make sense. If we are calculating revenue as a single column and then putting it as measure, it will take the space at my memory as a column and then again as a RAM when we use it as a measure. So that's not an ideal solution. For that, we have something called the X function. We'll use it as sumx. See the query. Sumx should the syntax is given as a drop down. It should be table name and expression. So for sumx, we'll use as table name and then the expression. So obviously the table name is orders as you can see at the top. And now we have used the calculations. Now it is not giving me error. Let's click OK. And you can see now my measure revenue measure is getting calculated without the use of revenue column. It is joining the values and then summing them together. So similar to sumx, there is average x, max, min x, max x. For everything with using the X function, you can do the subqueries and subcalculations while creating a measure. So I hope what are the sum functions, aggregate functions, and what the X values with them signify, and what measures and columns are is clear to all of you, because that's the building block on which DAX and our whole visualization will be based. And even if you proceed further in Power BI in field, it will come are the basic building stones on which you will move further. I hope it's clear to everyone. If anybody has doubt, they can always put it on chat and we can move with it. That being said, now let's move with the visuals. We'll keep on doing DAX calculations when we need it while with our visuals. So it will be a combination of both the things. So let's see. Another thing before we begin the visual is the date field. You can see there was 2 date fields, order date and ship date. Now they are a bit different from other fields. If you click on drop down, you can see a date hierarchy and a ship date hierarchy. So what Power BI does, it creates your month, quarter, year and date hierarchy for you itself. It doesn't, you don't have to create using DAX a year field or truncate it and create a quarter field. Power BI takes the liability and does it on your behalf. So you are ready to use date fields. For using this field, you have to ensure that the data type has been categorized at date at the very beginning. So that will save you all the work of creating different field using calculation. So that being said, let's first put an order date, because that will be our anchoring date, order date we will use in our visualization. So we put order date and let's take profit. So it is giving me year-wise profit. If we click on, there are 2 options. Go to next level in hierarchy and expand all down to 1 level in hierarchy. So what does these 2 options mean? Let me show you rather than see it to you. That will make more sense. If I go to next level in hierarchy, it moves me to the quarter level. Further down, it takes me to the month level. Further down, it takes me to the day level. But what is here is happening is that for day 0, it is day 1. It is taking all the data of all the months, 12 months for all the 4 years. The profit is this much. Similarly, if we go back to up, we can see for September of all the 4 years, it is showing you the values. That is 2016, 17, 18, and 19. Similar with the quarters and coming down to year. So if we want to see them as a different years altogether, instead of using go to next level in hierarchy, we will use expand all down to one level in hierarchy. And as you can see, it is not showing quarter divided by years. Further, months for each quarter, each year. And further down, it shows me order date wise. That is for every day how much profit it has been, the organization is having. So I hope these two topics is clear to all of you. What is next level and what is expand all down. And this is particular with date type because you don't get it with everything. So now with normal, if I use a normal date function, I will get it with these all options. But what if I want to show it for particular month? I will get rid of date and select month. Now it is showing me month-wise value as I have used a hierarchy and there is no drill down option as you can see. So it's something that you have to decide that how you want to show your data. If you want an interactive kind of thing where you want to give option to user to drill down, maybe you have to use the whole of the date. But if you want to show it as a month value, or maybe where you are doing it for year over year growth or month over month growth. These terms will make more sense when we will move to the further to the, I will say, date functions and calculations using on dates. That will make more sense back there. So hold your horses for that. But right now, we can show it in two different ways. That's what I wanted to show. So I hope everybody is clear up to what we have tried to do till this particular phase. Before I move further, I will give you 2 or 3 minutes for those of you who haven't tried and want to try to do it at their end. And after that, we will move further with our calculations and everything. If you are done and you understood what being told, you can ping on chat because I will have a knowledge that you guys are understanding what I'm trying to tell. So yes or no will be great in chat if you are able to understand or not able to understand, so I can proceed further. Great. So for those of you who are still trying, try it at your end. I will give you another 2 minutes. At 3:33, we will move further with our discussions. So I hope you have experimented with that, what I have told you, and now we can move further with our calculations. So as we are talking about right now, then the month are showing would be showing me, since we have already seen there are 4 years. So it will be showing me the values of 4 years, right? So I don't want the user to see the January to show the value of 4 years, but to give options of to user to show the value of 3 years and user to select from it. For that, we will use this particular visual slicer. Ah, sorry, I was already clicked on image, so it sliced that image. Now we have something called slicer here. We'll take the order here to this and convert it to the, I like, then since there are 4 years, I will like horizontal slicer. So from slicer header, I will go general, let's see. We'll convert it first to list. Let's see. And from, yeah. So once you, obviously for numeric slicers, you won't get a option of horizontal. So let's first convert your slicer. I will explain what slicer is in a minute. First convert your slicer to a list, and then from orientation, we can convert it from vertical to horizontal. And that's how a slicer will look. So what a slicer is, let me explain it to you. A slicer is nothing but kind of what you can say a filter. If you guys are familiar with tools like ClickView or Power BI, there are filters which we filter our data and we give option in like Tableau. We give an option to show few filters to the users, so user can use it to filter their data. Or sometimes we do simply use it to filter our data ourselves. So that's they don't have different name, but in Power BI, we have different names. We have names as slices, or we can say the filters that we want to show to the user and give them option to select a one from them. Else, if we want to filter the data without for a development perspective and don't want the user to have a option to tamper with that, we'll use the it as filters. Now close to the visuals, there is something called filters. So that we will use when we want to filter the data without giving the user option to manipulate it. But if we want the option to give the user option to change the data, we'll use the slicer. So that makes sense what slicer is. So field, obviously we want it to be sliced by year format. We'll go to selection. So we want multiple selection or single selection. Multiple, or we can have a show all option also. There will be a, let me just expand it so you can see it. So now you have a select all option. If you select all the 4 years are getting selected. If I select 2019, it shows me value of 2019 itself. But I do, let's deselect all and then select 2019. It shows me the value of 2019 itself. But I don't want the value of 2019 or a select all. I just want the value of user to give the option to user to select 1 year at once. So I will go to control. From multiple select, I will disable and obviously get rid of select all. So even if now I press the control key and try to select multiple values, just let me deselect them all. So now at a time I can select only one values, 2016. If I sorry, I didn't click on single control. That was causing the issue. Yeah, now. So if I click on 17, it will filter the 2016 values will automatically get deselected and 17 values will be reflected. If I select 18, only 18 values will be reflected and 19 and so on. So that's how you do it when you want to show a single year at a time. So a single value selection. If we want multiple value, we will allow multiple selections. I hope that makes sense how Slicer works. So let's click here. If we have to see any other options, that will come handy. If we want to put a title over your slicer header, I don't want that year header. I will get rid of that. Any title I want to show, I don't. Lock, expect, border, shadow. If you put it something, it's just like a 3D effect that gets you. Nothing fancy here. So that's pretty much what a slicer does. Now what happens is that I want, we will now learn, since we have learned slicer, now we'll learn filters and how it is can work in relation with slicers. So that we have a slicer. I don't want the value of 2016 to be shown directly to users. I want the user to have an option to select from 2017 to 19. That's because if I'm trying to do a year-over-year growth, right? What a year-over-year growth is, it will show me the calculation for January of 2019, and it will calculate it with 2018, how much we are growing. Similar to that, it will do for 18, 17. But for 16, if we try to do year-to-year growth, it won't show the value since there is no 2015. So I want the user to select from the top 3 years itself. So what I will do is, I will filter the value of 2016. So how can we do that? If you click on a visual, you can see there are level of filters. Filter on visual. If I use a filter on visual, it will only filter the data for that particular visual. If I select January, it will filter the data for this particular visual and not impact anything else. Next comes the filter on this page. If I put anything here, it will filter everything on this page. For instance, let's put basic filtering and select as 2018 and 19. Now you can see it has filtered the value across the page. That is the for the visuals or any other thing, it will give me these 2 options. But I don't want it. I want to be across all the pages. So I will use it, the third one. Filters on all pages. Basic filtering. And if I select 2019, it will filter the data as 2019 across all the pages. Again, with the calculations, there are 2 type of filters available. One is basic, other is advanced for calculations. Like I can put as like is greater than 2016 and apply. So instead of selecting 3 visuals, 3 particular values, I have put if tomorrow 2020 data comes into the picture, I don't have to come manually and filter it out that do select 2020 data, don't skip it. It will be automatically being done. So that's what filter does. Now the user can simply not get the 2016 data as it is getting filtered by the developer. So that's what filter are, and slicer are more of an interactive option that we give the users to select from. So I hope filters and slicers have become clear to you because these 2 are important stuff and come in very handy. Now coming back to the fun part. Visuals, the easier part. We have order my month and profit. So for 2019, how much profit, 2018, how much profit, 2017, how much profit, we can see. but I want to see it by subcategory. So I will take it, search for a subcategory, and put it here. Subcategory is too much. Let's put something small. There are only 3 categories in the data. Simply drag and drop, and you can see there are 3 categories only. So that will make less cumbersome values. So again, click on the visual and take the category and put it as legend. Now you can see your data is divided between 3 categories. All your data is divided as a 3 different categories. So you can see calculation for January, how much furniture, office, and technology is giving you. Similar to that, for instance, we can see for April the technology is in negative, that the profit that they have generated are actually, as a matter of fact, not profit but rather losses. The overall value was obviously giving profit, but category wise we know some are getting losses, but how much the profit or losses are, the question comes into that. So for that, there's one way that we can browse there, and on our tooltips are this black boxes and values that we get. On our tooltips, we can see those values, that how much profit or loss we are getting. The other way is go to the format and enable data labels. So now you can directly see that 212.6K is the data label there, showing that how much it is. Another thing is overflow text, that is, if you want the small values, it overshadows. If we want to show that values also, we have to use the overflow text. But I won't recommend it very much because it makes it cumbersome. For right now, see between April, there are 2 values and there's small thin blue line between. And I reduce my text size to 3. Let me select a smaller text format. Position, site center, auto display, auto. Yeah, another, sorry, I was just trying a few things. So you have something called positions. This is used to change how you want, where you want to display your text. Like now inside base, it is showing you to the corner of thing, or maybe a center of thing. Such kind of things you can do. And again, the decimal values that we have, we can decide that also. Maybe if it's a very big values, you can show the keys also. Now key means 1000. I hope everybody is clear with that. The key means 1000. So the display unit, it can be auto. Leave it as auto if you are not sure. Maybe from 800,000, it can be maybe a million, then it will automatically convert it to million. But if you want to be fixed in your display unit, like if I don't want thousands, I want the whole number, I can use this. Or I can do a million. Such kind of unit changes, you can do it. Let's leave it to auto right now. So data, the default colors, you can also change it here. This is pretty much standard that will be doing, not going across through all the works, because that's pretty much standard in all the visuals. The data colors or values will be changed via this. Then again, there is something called transparency. The more the transparent area, the more the background will be visible. And like we have shadows with up, we can do a shadow like thing here also. So that pretty much explains the first of our charts. That being said, stacked bar chart, now we will move to stacked column chart. Stacked column chart is nothing but we turn the bars into columns. So I will press a Control C and a Control V. It will create a duplicate of stacked bar chart. Right click on it and convert it into column chart. And that's it. There's nothing fancy there or anything. It converts your simple bar chart into a column chart. So the other options are all just similar and same. So I won't go further and explain it. Obviously, then there is your x-axis and y-axis. We can even modulate them as we want to do with these options. But then also that's pretty standards. So I won't explain this further than that. If you have doubts with this simple chart, you can always reach out to me. I'll create a third replica of this. So let's reduce their size a bit. So then lower charts have more space. So what we know is a clustered bar chart. So what does a clustered bar chart shows? As you can see in the sub image, it will do exactly that it will convert your chart as a cluster. Let me zoom it in. Let's move it here and zoom it in. And now you can see what it did similar to what your first chart was, but instead of using a single stack charts, it did was create a different rows, different bars for each particular value. So that's what a clustered chart does. Now it will create a duplicate of this page, so we can proceed further from here itself. Get rid of all the other charts. But this imposes us a problem right now. What the problem is, if I select 2018, the value here doesn't change as 2018. I want the same filter to work across all the pages, right? So what we can do is, we don't want a slicer to be 2019 on a page and 2018 on the other page. That doesn't make sense. So we'll go to view, sync slicer, select our slicer, and create this is the visibility of slicer. We want the slicer to be visible on both pages. If we didn't want, we will just unselect it. And we want them to be synced. And now that does the thing for you. Simple as that. Now if I click on 2019, the 2019 slicer is selected on my both page. If I select 2017, the 2017 slicer is selected on both my page. So that's how sync slicer works. I hope that's clear to you. So moving further with our charts. Let's create a copy of this because that will again be similar chart. And create a cluster column chart. Now, as you can see, this is nothing again, but just the rows are converted into columns. So that's what the third chart is. I just won't go into detail with these charts because they are just replica of the prior ones. I'll create a copy again, and this one is a bit interesting because this is not a standard charts that we are working. This is a 100% stack chart. So what does a 100% stack chart mean? The question arises. A 100% stack chart is, in a way, you can say, we were able to see the income, but how much percent of your profit it was impacting, we were not able to see by earlier charts. Here we are able to see that how much of the profit is getting earned by each segment, particular category. For April, you can say the profit, the particular technology sector led to 42% of the losses. Very evident, it is obvious to be told. rather than taking the values and doing the calculation ourselves to show how much of the loss is endured. We can do this. So right, if I click, it shows me the number itself. So the person knows the actual amount also, how much the loss has been, as well as in the terms of percentage, how much the loss has been or a profit has been, as a matter of fact. So a third one, obviously, it would have been quite evident to you. The third chart would be nothing but converting the rows into the columns, as the nature of Power BI charts has been right now with the columns and bar charts. So I'll take it here, put it here, just for namesake. I'll put it here, and that now we have a column chart. So this explains the first few charts that we have to work with. The name is page 2. I'll create a page 3. Let's not duplicate it. So I want the same slices here. So how can I do that? Can I have to bring the slices? In that way, not exactly. Click on the slicer again. Click on to sync slicer on page 3 and visible as yes. If you now come to page 3, you would have that slicer on that page. So that's how you create. You don't go and create new slicers on every page. Rather than you just enable their visibility from the existing page on the new pages. That's how you get slices on all your pages. Now we move to the line charts. Once we are done with the basic charts, we will obviously move further and learn some advanced charts that we will import in Power BI and then work with them. So in line chart, let's again go with months. Value as sales, let's take it down. We have been working profit for a while. And so category as legends. So what is secondary access? Let's put something in secondary access and see what that does. Okay, we have since legends, so I think that's not working. Let's try to put revenue here. Yeah, so that's why it wasn't working, because I have already put a legend. So you have to select between either of that, because we don't want 6 lines, so you can have it one way or other. So right now it is showing me like relation between sales and revenue, how they are comparing. There's a better chart to do it, but I just wanted to show it to you that how they a line charts can be used with 2 axes. The other 2 charts are nothing but a variance of line chart, if I can say that. Let's take a copy here, put it here. Convert it to area chart. Let's change the colors to make it look more obvious. Let's be very lighter version of blue, and let other be very lighter version of red. Maybe a darker version. Okay, that makes sense. So since there is thin line, you can see the revenue is exceeding the sales. It's same as the previous chart, but instead of lines, it is using the area. That's all. Moving to our third option. It's a stacked area chart. So stacked area chart is nothing but it stacks one value over the other, as the name suggests. That is, instead of starting the value for revenue and sales from just 0, It first calculated the sales and stacked the revenue over it. So if you see the axis, it is around 120K each for the month of like November. In the other, you can see it's reaching almost 250K. That is the double of the original values because one value is stacked over the other. So that's what we can say a stack chart is for you. So now we are coming to something what we in other tools we can call a dual axis chart in Tableau. So let's duplicate the page again. You can always check if your slicer is sync simply by clicking on it. So now there is something called shared axis. Let's put some, maybe, let's select reason. Reason as shared axis, and then there's something called column and row line value. So let's put sales as column values and profit as line values. Okay, pardon me. So that's give you a kind of, we can say, relation between sales and profit by the reason. What's the relation between those? So there's a better chart for doing that. We'll move to that. So as you can see, this is line and stacked column chart, and the other is line and clustered. So clustered, as you can guess, it will show you a clustered. So let's replicate it instead of doing the whole everything. For replicating, I am doing nothing but Control C, Control V. For those of you who are still not doing it, that saves a lot of time. So no change. Why is that? Because there is nothing called in column series that will make the change. Let's put segment in column series. Here also in column series, let's put segment, and that will show you the difference. The first one is a stack chart. The other one is, as the name suggests, cluster chart. So I hope that makes it clear what these two charts are and how they operate. The last of the lot is the ribbon chart. So that will end up our first few charts, segment of first two charts. Again, we can do that against this chart also instead of creating whole, and can utilize our time better this way. Let's select here and convert to ribbon chart. So I don't want two values, obviously, since it's a ribbon chart. I want profit and legend as category. Let's put it as category. So what happened is it create a ribbon kind of, as the name suggests, that what is moving further up and down, it shows according to as a ribbon bar, moving further and other. So we can see in the west, office supplies were leading. Then it went way below east. When it in east, it came way below, and that again that it rised in the south, it came below. And for everything, the poor furniture is at the very end. So such kind of things that can be missed in these two charts can be seen with the Raven chart. So that's what a Raven chart is. You have to know what each chart does and how to use them properly. So these are the interesting charts that we are moving in. So be tentative. First is the waterfall chart. What waterfall chart does is it creates a waterfall model based on your profit and loss values. So based on how we are doing, it is adding a step, and at the very end is the overall value. If I enable the data levels, it will show me the value also. Let's increase its size and then enable it. So you can say each step is adding the value. At the very end, you can see the total value that there is. You can break down this chart further also if you want. So now for each month, it is taking for March, right? It is breaking down between the three type of values that there are. But I don't like it as cumbersome because it loses the whole value of being using a waterfall chart in this way. So that's why I will get rid of breakdown and show you what a simple waterfall chart is doing. Next comes the funnel chart. Funnel chart is obviously, as the name suggests, creates the chart in the form of funnel. Let's convert the waterfall into funnel chart. But that doesn't look like a funnel if I click. We have month and value. So what I'm doing wrong? All I'm doing wrong is not arranging my value. So I will sort it on the basis of rather than month profit. And now you have a funnel there. So that's all that this chart does. In a sense that showing a value, we can say we can arrange it in a bar chart from showing the minimum to maximum value, but it is generally a better representation if you are going from min to maximum value to show it through the funnel chart. So it is obvious using this chart that March has been the most profitable month, whereas April has been maybe a month where a lot of jobs have been sacked. Let's move to next page. Now, before I use this page, let's come back to this particular page where I was using line charts. Sales and revenue by month. I tried to show this visual using a line chart, but there is a much better way to show a relation between two measures and a dimension if we are talking about them. What I did was just copied and pasted it on this particular page. Now this particular line chart, I will convert it as scatter plot. So as I was telling you, this is much better relations because it shows me for November, the first thing it shows me that the revenue and sales are in proportion, right? That as the revenue increases, so does sales. There is a in proportion relation between, and for November they have been maximum, and for this February they have been bare minimum. So maybe if we search for something more like sales and profit, it will give me, instead of linear relation, a different kind of relationship. Now, using this, you can identify the outliners. Uh, Outliners means somewhere it's generally a linear chart that more profit means more sales, but somewhere there are difference. Outliners which are not working as linear. For March, it is not linear as you can see. For rel sales, there has been more profit. And then it's opposite for the November. There's been a whole lot of sales, the profit hasn't been so much. Such kind of outliners can be identified using scatter plot. When you have two measures and a dimension to compare, you use a scatter plot chart. As a matter, That being said, there's something I almost forgot. There is something called variance where you can add things in a line chart. Like, let me remove this cell. So here to make your chart more explanatory with the line charts or something, you can add like an average line or something if you want to. Even if your data is, I will say actual data with a pattern on it, you can do forecasting with your with the use of Power BI enabled feature. But that's something that we won't be doing today. But that's another thing we can do with Power BI. For those of you who don't know forecasting is something like predicting the future, what the trend will be, looking back at the values. That's what the people at data science generally does. So using Power BI algorithms, you can do those things also. Now a pie chart. Pie chart, there is nothing fancy there, but divides your value by the pie. That is like, let's take states. Or as a matter of fact, let's take something different like segment and put it as our legends and put revenue on the value field. So it divides my revenue based on each particular segment as a percentage and as a value it shows. Donut is nothing but showing that value from a pie to a donut. That's a preference that how you want to show your value. You can use either of them. The next chart we will talk about is a tree map. This is a powerful chart and we will be careful when to use it and how to use it. When you have too many values to show, any chart except for I think tree map doesn't suffices that. So I will take a group. My value is grouped by states and let's put it as value as revenue. You can see even the small states are getting represented here. Let's give it more space. But many of you will argue that we can do something like this. Another thing that you can see the highlight interaction. If you are not able to understand how they are working, there's something called edit relationship where we can stop the interaction, filter our data based on interaction, or highlight. That is a setter relation between those. I have explained it in detail in my previous lecture. For those, if you have more doubts, you can go there. So if I skip this, right click on like here, we can see all the values. So you will argue that the line chart or bar chart can do the same. So if what special does it has to do? It can go further in detail. Like I have changed my revenue and I want them to be distributed by the profit. So in details, I will put the profit and it will break down my values by profit. So for each revenue, we can see that the sales has the revenue has been most for Pennsylvania, but for Pennsylvania also we can break them down further on the basis of profit. That's something that we can then do with the use of this or maybe a city. So now we can see for California, Los Angeles has been California as a whole has been largest contributor, and for them, Los Angeles has been the one contributing the most. Slayer from Michigan, Detroit, as well as Jackson has been contributing the same. For Illinois, Chicago has been contributing a lot. So such kind of things we can see in detail with the use of this particular tree map. So it is a very powerful chart that you should learn how to use because that's something that comes very handy in your career. Let's move to page 7. We are moving out of pages now. So now let's create a map actually. I think we are almost done. This is the last three or four charts that we will go, and then we will move to a more of a time intelligence function because that's another important thing that we have, an import chart functionality. So for this chart, obviously you have to put a location the first. Maybe you want it to be on the basis of cell, state. Pardon me. And the size should be based on, let's say, profit. So you can see New York has been profitable, California has been profitable, and since if I add legend, it will further break down the data. Like if I take a category and put it as legend, it will break down my data and make it look like a pie chart, but I don't want that, so I will get rid of that. So that's what this particular chart does it for you. And one more thing, there's something called latitude and longitude. So what's that? What happens is sometimes it's not a state or something. Maybe you are working with a firm or for an organization that has oil refineries across the world. So to show them on map, there is nothing city or state that you can use. You have to give their exact latitude and longitude because they will be scattered across the ocean. So in your data set, their latitude and longitude, you have to pull that and drag it there so that particular map, you can pinpoint those latitude and longitudes to the state that you want. So that's for what? To the point that in the geographical position that you want. So that's what a latitude and longitude does for you. Fill map, obviously it's create the same but filled. With the current data, it won't work proper, make any logical sense. It will make more sense if we use it with other more of a DAX kind of thing. As a matter of fact, let's do a little DAX because we can. So let's take states. I haven't. Let's convert it to this table structure. So states are revenue. And now comes the revenue measure. Now what is happening is revenue and revenue measure is showing the same value. But what I'm trying to achieve is to get the percentage of my revenue. That is of the total revenue, how much its state is contributing as a tabular form. So for that, I have to get the whole of the revenue and measure is not getting doing that. So for that, I have to tweak our measure and create a DAX query over it. I'll create a new measure. Name it overall revenue. Use the calculate function and then use all except. What is does this all? It shows all value for all the fields dimension except for the value against which we don't want the value. So let's put the country and region as the visit because there is only one country. Obviously, the table name should be first. Sorry, pardon me. So let's try to see what overall revenue is generating. And it is giving me the whole of the revenue rather than breaking down the revenue by going. So percent of revenue now we can calculate against overall revenue. So new measure divided by overall revenue. So there is something called revenue percentage. Let's drag and drop to see. It is showing the values as decimal values because that's what it does. We have to tell it that it's percentage. So let's go to the view. Click on our value. And from here, click on percent. And now you can see these values are showing as percentage, right? So let's do a calculated field. If revenue percentage greater than 0.10 or as a matter of 0.05, exceptional, needs work. Okay, just a minute. It is expecting a double quotes and I have used single quotes. So let's get rid of those. So now it's not giving me error and let's name it as revenue indicator. And let's put revenue indicator here. So 0.6, that is 20%. So it has removed that value. Greater than or equal to. So now for one particular, it's showing us so yeah. For one particular, it is showing as exceptional where it is more than, and let's use that field now. Now for Langent, I will search indicator, put it as Langent. So now you can see it's more obvious here in tooltip. We can put a revenue also, revenue percent as tooltip, and revenue also as tooltip. So it's become more evident. So you can see there are a few areas which is giving you profitable revenues. For other, it takes work. That is less than 0.5% that we have put it. So that's how it's working right now. So such kind of using such kind of indicators, what we can do is use a fill map to show such kind of values. So I hope a fill map is clear to all of you. Moving to the next one. It is something what a bullet chart does, but right now bullet chart has been right now most BI tools and developers are using bullet charts to show a target and a current value kind of thing. But earlier a cost chart was something that people preferred. So what it does, it take the revenue or value, as a matter of fact, revenue is what the field I'm taking, and put it as value. So the minimum and maximum it is calculating on itself. But if I want to do is I can create a field and use it there, right? Or even I can alter it from here. The target field is empty. I could have used a calculated field here. As a matter of fact, let's do it. Let's come back here, create a two calculation and use them. New measure. Of year of the thing is that with measures only one value is has or first or last kind of thing function you have to use. Even not max, let's not to confuse you. Let's use a first function, the main function. That's what we are doing. Reason is equal to best, comma, revenue measure. Best. I'm also so that's give you the best revenue. Okay, there's something that I did wrong. Too few argument. Otherwise, if it's not west, then what should be the value? Right, I have to read that also. Put it as this, close it. And otherwise, the revenue is 0. So let's see if it works now. Great. So as you can see, it is showing the value for the west region only. For the other regions, it's showing as 0. So we just use the create the revenue, use it and calculate it for the east. That gives me the east revenue. It shows me the values for the east region. So now we will put it as, let's check again. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to use these two values as our target and original values. So instead of value, we'll use east as the value. Um, it is getting filtered out due to some reason. Not sure. Let's try to what I'm doing wrong. Try to convert it to bar chart. How is it showing? It's showing me right. Okay, so for donut, they are still not working. Frankly speaking, I'm not sure. I have to check why it is not working. What I was trying to show is use those two revenues as value. So that's something that I have to even look for it. You are always surprised with something new that we find. So at least we came to know that how we can filter the values, but not sure why it didn't work. But we can even set the value manually, right? We can create a simple new measure and use it as value, but I won't be doing that because that doesn't make sense right now. I will check on just that why this particular way I approached wasn't working and try to fix it in next session. So that being said, let's don't waste our time and move to the last three things before we move to what we Power BI use as so names as AI enabled charts. So cards are nothing, but as we have used simple, one card is showing a single value. Multiple cards is again nothing, but it shows your value divided by the rows. It will be more obvious if I track something like a city and put it with my field. So it is showing the value for multiple cities. So that's what a card does. So how does that make sense? If you have more than one values, that makes more sense actually. See, if I have put a revenue also. So instead of using your normal tables, monologuous tables kind of thing, it looks a little more comforting. So that's how a cards, multiple cards kind of thing can be used. I hope that's clear to everyone. The last one is KPI, and this is important thing because you'd be using it way lot if you are working on a business dashboard. For that, let's create a KPI. As a matter of fact, let's take revenue, our favorite thing, friend access, and indicator as month. Okay, sorry, I put wrong things at wrong places. Month will be in trend access and revenue as indicator. So now, what does 290.15 indicate? Does it indicate the maximum value that there is, the overall value? Let's create a simple bar chart below it and see what that 290 is. Let's put revenue, month, and convert it to a area chart. So the charts below and above is same almost. So what's the difference between this and this chart? Let's go here and enable data levels. And now you can see what actually KPI chart does. It doesn't show you the summation of the whole of the value over a year. What it does is it's take to you to the last value, the very last value that there exists, and shows it as your current value over it. So it's more like what you see in the Sensex. You see the graph if your shares are increasing or decreasing for a particular shareholder. Maybe you are holding a Axis Bank share. So you want to see how the trends are and what's its current value is rather than the year overall value. So that's what a KPI does. It shows you the latest value. For here, it is the value of December. So it is showing you the value of December as a text. And at the background, it is showing you the graphs, the overall trend. You can see that it is going growth. But it is not a, it maybe it has increased to 90 today and before that it was fall for 6 months. Then you would not like to invest in that form. And if it's a regular growth, you'd be more interested in investing. So that kind of things can be done with the help of KPI charts. Slicers, we know table charts we have been using here and there without introduction. This is a matrix chart. Matrix chart is nothing but, as the name suggests, show your value between two things. If I put rows as level and then maybe subcategory as other. So now we have a whole matrix and we can put revenue in the values. And now, so it is nothing but shows your values as revenues between with a total. The total option you can enable or disable. Same works with the table. So there also you can enable or disable the total value. Trend total. Let's go. Subtotals. Rows subtotal. Let's disable them. Column subtotal. Let's disable them. Or maybe I would like to keep a row subtotal. Okay, so that's how I want. So that's something that can be done. Now moving back, revenue. I can do conditional formatting. That's something very interesting. We can change the font color, add a bar, or even add a web URL. So let's change the background color. So I will go with this. There are options, maybe based on some rules, that from this much to this, take this color, from this value to this, take this color, or based on a field that I can do a calculated field where I will explicitly put the color values and use that field to color that. But right now I will use a simple granular color. So now this makes my chart way more readable. Now I can see that these are the darker portions, that these have been the most profitable, or here this has been more profitable. Without the colors, it was hard to understand that. So such kind of things can be done with the help of tables or matrices in Power BI. So we move to the last leg. Before I move, I will enable the slicers across all. So there's a slicer now. So now, what is key influencers? It gives you what to analyze, and how to expand by. Let's do it with an examples to make it more evident. What to analyze, we will always analyze some measure, like by revenue. We are analyzing it by, let's put it, months. Okay, because there was no direct trend, so it didn't found any values. Let's analyze it by profit maybe, because there is a direct relationship. Sorry, there's a direct relationship between revenue and profit, as it's obvious, right? So let's try to analyze the relationship between profit and this. If there is not, as I showed previously, it won't create any values. So now it's analyzing, and it shows, okay, so if profit goes up, the average revenue increases by this much value. We can also further get it distributed like category. Similar to, it can now shows how profit is getting impacted by your revenue, as well as how your it is impacted by categories. So first is this, and other is top segments. So it will divide your values by the segments and let you know stuff. So based on that, it's again like just there was increase and decrease. Here also there is high and low values. So that's one of the KPIs use of your one of the artificial intelligence stuff that they offers is key influencer. The other one is decomposition tree. Decomposition tree is easy. Instead of giving a chart that is fixed, it gives the user the option. Like let's get rid of revenue now. Category, subcategory, and product. So what it does is, as I click on this plus button, let's go to category. It will show me how much profit is getting generated by each particular tech category and dominated by technology, as we can see. And this is something that's not explicit to developers. Since it's on the UI, the user can do it. So maybe I want go on subcategory. So for profit, how much subcategory is contributing, it is showing. Or maybe I want to change my plan and see office supplies. So it will change accordingly. So that's the benefit of this particular chart. The decomposition tree, as the name suggests, decomposes the value, and it also lets you the user the flexibility to see the values as he wants. Even as a matter of fact, you always don't have to drill down to subcategory, right? I can directly go to product name. So it is not directly showing the values by the product name. That Canon image is giving you the most of the product values, and then the rest. So now the values are not getting divided by category and subcategory, but as a whole it is showing. So such kind of dynamic kind of analysis, giving the user option to do, can be done with a decomposition tree. I hope decomposition tree is clear to you guys. Moving to the last flag. There is question and answers. Let's Control Z and create a new visual for question and answers. So question and answer is nothing but it does actually what it says. Like I can say top 3 states by revenue. It is giving me option 2. And so it is showing me which are top 3. So it gives you user the option, the AI in the Power BI gives the user option to ask the question and it will generate the graph accordingly. Now here there are a few options for us that enables us to find filled synonyms. Like for revenue. We know profit and loss is given by 1. So I can maybe add loss as the value. So now let's see, is it working? So it's given by you by profit, top 3 states. By loss, it is now recognizing loss as the same word that we are using by for profit. It's not the ideal situation. I just wanted to show you that how it works. Like for again, let's make it more sensible kind of thing. So let's see. Reason. So maybe a person would be searching for reason. Submit. Or maybe province. Search what it search for provinces. So it is asking me what does provinces mean? What should I show when the provinces are there? So I want them to show states when the user search by provinces. Let's use state hierarchy and save it. So that been done. Let's come back and top 3 provinces by sales. So now it is showing me the states as provinces. So such kind of jargons that your business will throw at you can understand that and teach your AI accordingly. And similarly, just by that way, Power BI will be able to understand that and convert it accordingly. And if you want the option that, let me show you again. If you find some visual as important and you want to pin it to your dashboard, that this dash should be rather than Q&A, it should be. There's this option, turn this question and answer result into a standard visual. Just click on it and a standard visual is created for you. So that pretty much explains everything that visual that Power BI has to offer. To import a visual, we have to right click on it, import it from a file and go to import option. There is also get visual that will directly take you to marketplace. But since none of you would have I assume most of you don't have a Power BI account, so that won't be possible. So that's why from the visuals that I shared with you, you can use those visuals, directly go to data source, click on the visuals and that will start reflecting. But we'll discuss that more in detail in next class, that particular topic and our time intelligence, that part of. So before we close this session, we have a last leg of the lesson. So we'll just I will introduce you to hierarchy uh, and how it works. At start of session, I told you about the date hierarchy that Power BI calculates us for us. So similar to that, there are hierarchies that we want to create for ourselves. Like we needed category, subcategory, and then going down to product name. So that's what we wanted the user to give an option. But what with a simple chart instead of this time intelligence chart, decomposition tree, or AI charts? How can we do it using simple bar chart? For that, what I will do, right click on category, add to new hierarchy, and it has created a category hierarchy. So let's go to the subcategory, add to hierarchy, category hierarchy. Now you can see after category, there's subcategory. And now I will search for the product name, add to hierarchy, category hierarchy. I think the state hierarchy I've created by mistake, so I will get rid of that. Right click on it and delete. So when you delete a hierarchy, the state value won't get deleted. It's just the hierarchy that's getting deleted. You can see the state value is still there. So now coming up to our charts, let's use a simple bar chart. So for revenue, if I use a category table, that's the end of line. There is no drill down or something. It just shows you by category. But what if I use instead of category a category hierarchy and get rid of this category? Now that's not the end of the line. It allows you to drill down further to the product level. Similar to what we did with did, it again give you option to expand and drill down. The first we did was drill down, and now we can expand. So but as you can see, it doesn't makes a lot of sense here because it's not a date time dimension. So both the drill downs will give you the same result here. But with date function, the both of them shows a different result. So that's how what hierarchy are and why it is used. It's simply used to create a drill down. And this probably is the last topic that I will be discussing, and then we can close the session. What are histograms and bins? So histograms are nothing but kind of see values to see the trend in a very naive term, I would say, used to show your measures as a dimension. Doesn't make sense, I know. Let's see. Let's take customer ID. Create it as bar chart. Put it value. So we can see the customers have ordered a way lot of stuffs. Few of them have ordered up to 100 stuffs. Few of them have ordered, a lot of them have ordered generally a very less number of stuff, like 5 or 6. So what is the average number of stuffs that a customer does order? That's what I'm interested in knowing. So for that, we have to create a histogram. I'll show you how to do that. We'll go to quantity again, new group. Since it's major, it's create bins. So now how much bin size should be? I'll create a bin size, let it be one bin, a value of one bin size. Sounds good. Now what I will do is take a bin size and put it here. And take quantity and put it as values. And with that, instead of sum, I will use count. So as I was telling, Now we are using the measure as a dimension also and as a measure also. So what it does was, it showed me that most of the people generally like to order two or three number of quantity. Most customer do order. There are very rarely a customer ordering first for 10 stuffs or 15 stuffs. Most of the customer are ordering two or three orders at a time. So such kind of stuff thing can be seen with the help of bins. When you want to see a major trend over values, maybe average age in your class, that how much is the average age of the students in your class, or things like that, where you have to break your major into bins. That can be done with the help of histogram and bins. So I think that concludes our session. Everything in our next session, if you do join me, I will be discussing about the custom results, the time intelligence function, and using these two, we will be making a small version of what we can say a sales dashboard that generally an enterprises use. So I think we can call it a day. We have learned enough for the day. I think you guys can always practice back, and if you have doubt, you can go through the YouTube lectures. It is still been there even after the lecture has ended. And after that, even if you have doubt after that, you can always ping me back with your queries. So I think we can call it a day. Thanks all.
Thank you so much, sir, for the informative sessions. And dear participant, I hope that you have liked the webinars and learned something from it. If you like it, then hit the like button. If you think your friends will also benefit from it, then share it with your friend as well. Comment down below which workshop do you need the next. And please do subscribe to the Board Infinity channel on the YouTube for the more webinars, workshop, and informative videos. And if you are looking for data science course, then check out on www.boardinfinity.com. You can find the courses as well. Along with that, if you are needs one-to-one interaction with the mentors, then you can fill out the form and our counselor team will get in touch with you. So thank you so much for being a lovely audience, and thank you so much, sir, for connecting with us today. Thank you.